So it was crazy, right? So the paladin casts resist elements, and I'm balls deep in this hellhound, right? Vecna comes running around the corner, pissed off as can be. And I'm like, dude, what's the problem? I haven't even seen her. And he goes, that's not a hellhound. That's my wife.
Steak, we're recording.
Oh, hello everybody, and welcome to the Cantrip Cast. Today we're talking about the do's and don'ts of role-playing deities in D&D 5e. This is definitely something that I wanted to talk about because I don't think it's talked about enough in this space. And I think for something that so directly influences a game, especially depending on what class you pick, I think it deserves some love. So I wanted to, sort of shoot the shit about it. What do you think, Brandon?
I think it's a good subject to kind of go over, mainly because a lot of D&D games that I've seen really focus on low to mid-level play. And for good reasons too, because low to mid-level is probably some of the most fun you can have in D&D, especially for a lot of new players. And there's more and more people playing D&D every day. But something that you don't get into that much, or if you do, it's usually higher level, is, when you get to the point where you're, fighting God or interacting with gods directly or deities directly. It's one thing it's one thing if a paladin or a cleric, shoots a prayer, text message up to somebody to ask for a favor. But when you are directly dealing with Moradin, you get sent to the gates of Moradin's heavens and he is speaking you face to face. How do you go about that and role playing that? So, I'm going to let you kind of take the lead on this one a little bit because I know you enjoy high level play and you probably got a lot to say about this. So,
yeah, I've definitely got a story about it. So, my dad grew up playing D&D 1, and from that point he collected the books. So by the time I was playing, I was 10. We were playing a mixture of 3.5, 1, and 2, and just having a really good time, but mostly playing 3.5. And back in 3.5, I found that, they just covered deities a lot more. They had a specific book that was all the way through just deities for 3.5. I have it laying around somewhere. But I just remember one time I was DMing some higher level stuff for just my family. And they met one of the greater demons of the astral layer plane or wherever the hell they were. They ran into a big bad that was way too big. He was only there to dissuade the players from going in that direction. So I explained to my players, I'm like, hey, he's huge. Roll a charisma saving throw to see if you can even, hold your feet. And I thought I role played it as much of, hey, this is a deity. You can't just go up and fight this thing. They didn't get it. And they still approached it. And when they went to talk to it, I started trying to talk, and they were like, just get out of the way, and
how did that work out for him?
It was really upsetting for everybody because at my table, when your character dies, you have to ball up your character sheet and throw it away in the trash can.
Yeah.
It's very personal. And it was a bad day because and afterwards they were like, well, I don't understand. Why would he just kill us? Or why would it just kill us? And I was like, this is the epitome of evil. People say, that's a bad human. That's an evil orc. That's an evil elf. Yeah, this creature is evil incarnate. It's evil than all those things combined.
And he just walked up, called to the and...
they murder people for way less than that. They do that shit for fun. You can't just call him a bitch. You can.
But you're going to suffer those consequences because you're talking to a god that you just called a bitch. So
right.
Yeah, and I feel like that's an accurate kind of situation though. I've been in various
seen that happen.
I've seen it happen where it's just in various games we played, it's we'll do high level adventures and it's hey, you're speaking to the god of the literal Shadowfell or Underdark. This is the ruler, not just a demigod or a ruler of the plane. No, this is a fucking god. God.
Yeah, people...
all powerful. And they're just hey, f*** you. And I'm just he's gonna hit you with a divine strike from the heavens. Why would he do that? Excuse me? And then they get smacked for 150 damage. You're what? How is that
Yeah.
What did you... what did you expect?
Oh, is it not the consequences
exactly.
of my actions here to say hello?
I feel like, you know, when you start delving into characters interacting directly with gods and deities, even if they're like super high level, like level 15 to 20, like
it doesn't matter.
It should be no joke, you know what I mean? And I know there's stat blocks for like different like demigods, angels, etc., but it's like when you are dealing with like a literal god, like you may be level 20, you might be getting close to like demigod status, but you're still not a god, you know? You're close to it, but
you naturally just got to a point that I really wanted to speak on. And that was even level 20 adventurers would still have difficulty dealing with a god. The way I
think they should. I think they should.
One way I DM it specifically is if you are on a plane that is not your own against a being that is on a player that it is their own, like if you go up to Mount Olympus to talk to Zeus, I swear to you players, Zeus is going to be so much stronger. I don't care what books you've read, what you were prepared for, what meta knowledge you have. It's going to be exacerbated because now you're in this creature.
Yeah, you're in its domain. Yeah.
Where I'm going to let my Zeus do things that aren't in any books.
Yeah, he didn't travel to Earth. You are in Olympus, like about to get the lightning.
I think a lot of people get too casual with the way they play deities. Like sometimes it's fun. Like if the deity is Loki and you decide to, you know, run Loki as sort of a tricky, playful god.
Yeah, like a smart,
whisper secrets or steal things. And then they have like a more casual relationship. That's cool. But if your guy worships like,
I don't know,
Aknok, the fucking death lord from Nimtu, and they're just like, hey, what's up, buddy? What's up, guy? Like, like maybe he's South Park Canadian death, but probably not. Like, could he be? Actually, I really like I want to make a character based off that. I gotta remember Hawkna or whatever I said.
Well, I don't even know what you said. You can watch the video again. But yeah, no, I understand what you're saying though. It's like I remember doing a one shot where it was we did it was like a Viking theme one shot, and it was a high level one shot. It was a high level one shot where it's like they were Vikings or soldiers, I forget what it was like a year ago, that were fighting in the name of some sort of, you know, Norse god. I forget who it was a while ago, and they were going on this like crusade, this fight to get out, blah 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 blah. It was a crazy battle, high level situation, like fighting in the name of whatever deity they worshipped. One of the players was like, tells me halfway through the campaign or the one shot, like, oh yeah, I'm literally playing the god Loki, and I'm just like, no the you're not. Like, what? And he's like, well, that's what my name means, is Loki. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what? The real Loki comes down and beats the ever-living piss out of you for using his name and trying to be a false god.
False claiming god.
Yeah, and he's like, what? But I'm actually... No, you are not! You are level 14! Like, give me a break here.
You have to clear your divinity if you're a god, maybe with your DM. At a session 0, maybe.
Crazy diehard. Crazy. If you're watching this, I love you. I appreciate the shenanigans you bring to the table. But when you came to me and you were like, I'm actually Loki, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Wasn't it a live game?
Yeah.
That's why it's so funny to me. I wasn't there for that one.
No, but no, seriously, if you're DMing gods in your games, like, don't be afraid to take it up like a notch, because like that's like the top of the top. Like, how much farther do you go and something that players can fight or encounter or interact with than the literal creators of the realms? You know, like it should not be
much more.
It should not be something that should be like treated lightly. And I really feel like, hey, you're using gods in your games. Don't be afraid to let the gods be all powerful, because they mostly should be.
Yeah, they really are, especially if they're on their own plane. Like, if you've got some level 20 adventurers and they're like, hey, DM, we want to go fight some gods, and you want to make it challenging, I understand. I've done a lot of high-level, I guess, dungeon mastering over the years, and I have found that when you get a party of 4 or 5 level 20, there's not a lot you can do. And I had some players of mine, and they're like, hey, remember back when we were level 3 and this god said something smart ass to us? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, now the campaign's done, we want to go kick his ass.
Okay.
And I was like, the god from way back at the beginning. And they're like, oh yeah, we didn't forget. We wrote it down in our notes. And I was like, okay, no shit.
We wrote it down in our notes.
I said, I respect that. I said, give me a week. You know, next time we meet up, next weekend that we get together, we'll do an attack on Mount Olympus. And they got really excited, asked me if they could get new magic items. And I was like, go nuts, go have fun. And then I started writing down every god that I thought would be on Mount Olympus. And
how did that work out for him, Chief? How did that go?
Some gods died. Some players died. A truce was eventually made, and they decided, like, oh, maybe the gods got there for a reason. Maybe we shouldn't attack, because I dropped the god of every nuke down upon every offensive spell, every counter spell.
I bet that was still a fun one shot, though. Yeah, regardless.
We had a blast.
I bet it was a blast. You know, and doing those high-level encounters with those over-the-top, overly powerful deities and stuff like that, if it's a high-level party that knows what they're doing and knows how to play D&D, a lot of them are going to appreciate the fact, like, oh my god, this sucks, but it's fun, you know? So I guess long story short, so we can wrap up the video here soon, is if you're DMing as a deity or a god, or your players are at the point where they're interacting with deities and god-level creatures, then don't be afraid, again, to let the god-level creatures be god-tier creatures, because that's what they should be.
If there's ever a good excuse to be a little toxic,
there you go. There
you go, baby.
So, yeah, you've seen me witness it plenty of times where we've had some players like just talk a god. I'm just like, who do you think you're talking to? And I smack them around.
Back down.
Yeah.
A little PP smack.
And they're just like, why would they do that to me? I'm just a poor little level 5 NPC. And I'm like, yeah, talk shit. You know, it's what happens. So, but yeah, anything else on DMing gods and deities and D&D?
I'd say just don't forget to do so, because I feel like a lot of people, like when their level 3 warlock first starts, it's really easy to focus like, oh, he's got a patron. But after like level 8, maybe it's time for a comeback, because I know with my DM style, I will sometimes get I'll forget. I'll be like, they'll be like, hey, I haven't heard from my god in a while. And I'll be like, that was all planned for this episode tonight in 30 minutes. If you could keep your mouth shut about Cthulhu for 5 minutes. Yeah. And I'm like, I gotta put him back.
But then sometimes you have players that do very well interactions with like gods and stuff. Like I had a paladin that took an oath for Cthulhu, and that was a blast to play. Even when Cthulhu shut me out, I was like, I'm not talking to you right now. I was like, that's fine. I still appreciate you. And I would go on my crusade still, you know? Because I respected my god as a paladin. I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and talk to one that gives me power. So, all right, everybody. Well, I think that's about it for DMing for gods. You know, this is a little, quick video. We're going to do a couple of these little cantrip quickies, as we're going to call them, to just like quick little tips, tricks, and fun information and hot takes and whatnot. So, with that being said, make sure you like the video. If you don't like the video, then I will pull every nose hair out of Steak's nose with tweezers next time I see him. So, yeah.
Well, so I don't want that to influence you guys on my sake. I'll be fine.
All right, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Like and sub, and we'll see you next time.